What's going on, my creative collective? Welcome to your daily creative reading for September 20th. Different setup today, same space, but just a different room. So we're gonna hop on in and see where this takes us. I thought I would do one of my face with my face in it instead of just my hands. Although they are good hands, but I thought I would do one with my face instead. So we're gonna hop into here and see where this takes us. All the cards are falling out here, so we'll get one. I'll hold them up too because the table's just down here, but yeah. All right, so we have the first one out. Spirit, what messages do you have for my daily creatives for September 20th, please? These cards are flying all over the place. Okay. Wow. Again, shuffling them again. Okay. And we've got one for the end. Okay. So this one says, you are pure joy. You are pure joy. Did you know that? Dear you, now is one of those times you're being asked to add some distance, take a step back, and do nothing but observe. Don't worry about how long it will take to regroup. Just know it's temporary and actually an opportunity to take a breath, slow down, and look at how far you've come. Decisions for the highest good are made when you have full clarity, which comes from being open to information from both the intellect and the intuition. When you step into the role of observer, it's as if you turn on the switch that allows your soul to be an essential part of the information gathering and decision-making process. In this way, you can approach things from a more neutral and non-judgmental place. We know you'll make the right choice. Trust us when we say now is not the time to get too close to the fray. Step back now. You'll be glad you did. What's breezy out? It's good. It's a cool breeze though. So yeah, it's kind of about taking a step back today. I'm getting from that, the literal interpretation of that, and just a little more intuition. I'm hearing the song A Little Less Conversation by, I think it's Elvis and JXL or something like that. A little more intuition. It's like the remix. Okay, so let's see where this takes us today. Spirit, what messages do you have for my daily creatives for September 20th? Right out the gate, we've got the sun. That's part of your call to adventure. That is a good call to adventure. Yeah. I'm hearing Southern Hemisphere. Maybe some of you are watching from Australia or somewhere where you're kind of in spring right now, I guess. Spring in your step even, perhaps. And then we have the Six of Wands as part of the refusal energy. Interesting. And the Tower. I feel like the Tower is more a fear than it is an actual thing that's coming to fruition here, that's like taking shape. I feel like the Tower in this instance is almost like what you're afraid of, and the why behind refusing this sort of call to your greatest happiness is like there's maybe a lot of change, and it would be something that I get the Six of Wands, and this is coming across it's coming across almost as like the success that you're used to or know would be shifting and changing too much. And the Tower is this sort of push away, like you're wanting to push away the sudden change lest it bring about something that you fear happening. Maybe it won't actually happen, but there's always that fear, right? And that's often, it's like a defense mechanism, and it's something that's a protective mechanism. And actually, now that I'm thinking of it, I'm going to mention this book. Always a book. Always a book. And interestingly, so I started reading this book. I got it from the library, also not a shocker. But it talks about, it sort of substantiates Louise Hay's Heal Your Body. A lot of the stuff in there related to trauma. But this is the book that I've been reading, The Myth of Normal. Super duper library book. But there's a chapter, the one that I just finished reading, chapter 5. It talks about autoimmune diseases and disorders, and you know, it talks about the psychological and emotional causes of things like lupus or multiple sclerosis. And I'm not an expert on either of those ailments, but I will say that that was really compelling research, and I love it when science catches up to the work of teachers like Louise Hay. I mean, the science was already there in a way, but this is like unignorable. You know, we can't really deny it, right? So, but if you're looking for something that might help you through those things or just give you insight, great book. I'll hold it up again. This one here. I started reading it today, and I'm just so jazzed about it. But this, I was just thinking about, the mechanisms that we use to stop the towers that we think will happen, but the towers that we think will happen are less crashing things changing so much, and more epiphanies that change us, right? And that's the kind of, and that is a tower unto itself, but I feel like that's sort of the gentle tower. That's more like the Judgment card, yes, but there's like this fear in here, perhaps, a little bit. All the cards just fell. 2 seconds. Because I'm not at my usual spot, my balance with this is a little off, so do forgive me, do forgive me. Okay, so this Ace of Wands is part of what could become a tower if it goes unchecked. So we got the Ace of Wands in that position, which the way it's landing and feeling right now is, it's like there are so many, there's ideas that are coming, or like movements toward a specific direction. Like you're being called in a direction. Yes, that's hence part of the call, right? But it's almost like not to lose yourself in the ideation process, and to stick to the big picture, and to remember that there's details that you're bringing into this, right? Part of the big picture is not just forest for the trees, but it's not, it's blah, blah, blah. Let me try that again. It's remembering that there are trees within the forest too. So it's getting detailed where needed and where necessary, without, you know, over analyzing. This is showing up in the protagonist position of this hero's journey spread. And really and truly, I feel like there's something to be said for knowing when to focus on what and where. It's like prioritizing, right? One of the skills that I had to really, and that I work on a lot too still with ADHD, is prioritizing, right? Knowing what to prioritize when. And it's a skill that isn't just good to have for folks with ADHD. This is also something that's useful in general, because we live in a culture that pulls at everything. Like that's part of this, like, trauma, illness, and healing in a toxic culture. One of the things that Gabor Mate talks about in the beginning part of that book, and that I completely agree with, and that we all experience. This is like something that we can probably say that we've heard, you know. You'll get a text message and someone expects you to have answered it yesterday. Or it's like we live in this on-demand world in a lot of ways, that we have to cultivate something very different intentionally in our lives in order to de-stress and just to have more peace around us, right? To have more peace within us as well, as a byproduct of that. So, Spirit, what additional messages do you have? Knight of Wands is the antagonist position, which tells me a little bit that this, like, there's no need to rush through. You don't have to, like, be so hard up on the details. And, you know, this is, well, hard up on the details, it's almost like a balance that's coming in. Like, I'm seeing a bit of balance here. There's going to be, I feel like there's a lot of passion and information coming in. And it's like knowing how to respond to what is going to be really important, what to put your fire behind, what to charge forward on. And I feel like this is saying, don't rush anything. There's some information that's probably coming to you through ideas that you have that will lead to one thing and then another, right? So really important information coming through. And I feel like this is also really connected to intuition for me. This is like creative intuition. This is like your gut instinct that doesn't push you and tell you what to do all the time. This is more the instinct that says, that's a really interesting idea. Let me follow that breadcrumb trail. That sounds really neat. I'm going to try this. You know, I can't explain why, but I feel like I just want to go here today. I just want to do this today. So that's where this is really starting. I think that's where this is coming in a little bit. Spirit, whoa, what additional messages do you have for my daily creatives, please? The key challenge. Interesting. So we're talking about intuition, and this was on the split. The Star and the High Priestess. It's almost like trusting your intuition more. Not necessarily, like, it's not because it's been completely alienated, but I feel like this is a prioritizing. And you know, it's coming through as like prioritizing, not just healing. Like, this tends to represent healing for a lot of folks. For me, it represents this sort of remedying of the distance that we put, this chasm that we create between where we want to be and what is for our lives. So, you know, we split ourselves in a way because we can push those things away. So it's almost like a return to this energy, in this spread. And that's part of the sun coming out as well. It's almost like those two energies are talking to one another. Like, the call is towards the sun, but the key part of this, the overcoming of the challenge, is what are you listening to, right? Are you listening to love, or are you listening to fear? And that's really, you know, it's one of the invitations of A Course in Miracles. But I think the core challenge here today is knowing, like, your intuition is your guiding light. Your intuition is the thing that kind of doesn't just get you through the day, but it helps you to bring all of these ideas into something much more concrete, right? Into something much more concrete. And if you're disconnected from those energies, you're kind of disconnected from yourself too, which is where it's really hard to get momentum to move towards something without it feeling like futile or, and maybe not useless, but it's in a way, yeah, like it's expending energy, but for what, right? It's a needing to direct your energy better. And maybe not better as in let's create a binary of right, wrong here, because we're all doing our best, right? We're always all doing our best. This is just more so saying your energy is really precious and you have so much passion to give. So are you going to get stuck in the momentum, and are you going to feel like it's almost, the way I'm looking at it is like being on an exercise bike, right? You're on an exercise bike, you're having a great time, but you're not going anywhere. I mean, if you do that for the purpose of exercise, fabulous, right? It's great. It's a great way to work out. But if you would like to be bicycling, if you would like to be out there cycling, it's not a good use of the same energy, right? So it's almost like prioritizing what you want to do to understand the method. And I feel like this is kind of like the method. I'm hearing like the method in your madness, and maybe that's what this is about too, right? Like the method to your madness, and reconnecting that to your intuition. Yeah, reconnecting that. Knight of Swords is the overcoming energy for the challenge. I think it's like there's a little bit of clarity, not just clarity though, but like clarity of intention. That's what I'm really feeling this is, because you're kind of breaking through the barriers here. The train's going through town, but you're breaking through the barrier here, and that's where it's a sword, because it's perception, right? So when you break through that, it's like allowing yourself to see your intentions clearly. Because when we're clear on our intentions, this is Wayne Dyer, right? But the power of intention, and it's like if you can't have, you know, and Ed Milet talked about this on the Impact Theory podcast at one point, but said, you know, he talked to Wayne Dyer, and Wayne was talking to him on a beach and said, if you can't, you know, you can't necessarily have confidence in the outcomes, but have confidence in your intention. What do you want something to do, right? And then the path kind of emerges that helps you move forward, because this too is a momentum energy, Knight of Swords. It is also momentum. It is also forward movement, right? So it's looking at that and understanding that what are your intentions, and how are you taking this fiery ideation of something, this what you're pulling from in here, where it's like your head and your heart meet, right? And Chris from Minnow Pond Tarot talks about this a lot. He quotes Greg Braden, when your head and your heart meet, you can move mountains, basically, right? And so I feel as though it's really, I'm getting like, I want to say like unstoppable vibes, like the, you know, the unstoppability of where you're at. And you may not feel like it because the tower is here. So you might be looking at like the changes or shifts that are taking place that you have to then respond to. You know, we're all going through that in a way because of how things are changing, not just like in terms of, you know, government and elections here where I am in Southern Ontario. We're going through municipal ones and regional ones, all of that in the fall. So there's changes, right? There's shifts. There's, you know, a lot of different changes after the pandemic too, and uncertainty as well. So it's like this tower is kind of looming pretty large, but the key is that it's looming and it's not something that's necessarily happening. So it's like asking yourself what you want to prioritize. And I think it's also just, it's understanding the kind of victory you want to have, right? Six of Wands. It's understanding the kind of victory you want to have, but also how you want that to be infused with your most authentic happiness. Because the wands to me are a great deal of our authenticity made manifest in creative motion and movement, and that gut instinct, right? That forward movement. Not all wands are, not all wands are made equal, certainly. In terms of the tarot deck and what they communicate, but I feel as though here, at the very least, that's how they're coming across, right? So what are we awakening to through this hero's journey spread, Spirit? What are we awakening to? Page of Swords. A lot of swords energy. I feel as though, hi Chicken Little, what are you doing? Hey, can I help you? This cat. So the Page of Swords is showing up in terms of what you're awakening to. It could be new information or news. There could be news that you get that kind of shifts things or changes things. I wouldn't say in a tower sense necessarily, but I feel like there's like, it's like you're awakening to this, and it's like new, like there's some kind of news or something new. These messages that you're that it's like your higher self might be sending you as well in terms of the challenge, because the challenge might be hearing them. And we all have different times where we get blocked or we get into habits that sort of disconnect us, right? And it's not something that you should ever internalize shame about, because we're all doing our best, right? And I like to give the benefit of the doubt more often than not, unless evidence suggests otherwise. But still, like, you know, Cancer Moon Sarah talked about this in one of his readings recently, that was like, there's like this redemptive arc. Like, you have to really believe in that. So I don't really believe that we are so far from moving past or moving into something new. But this is telling me, regardless, this is telling me that there's some new news, maybe a message that's coming in, or you're awakening to messages that you perhaps weren't able to hear. And I think this is also a call. The part of this that could become a tower if it goes unchecked is getting still. And stillness means many different things to many different people, right? Like, for me, stillness is sometimes running. Sometimes stillness is going on a hike, right? It's the times where you get quiet enough to feel your body and to feel what it's like to be in your body, you know? And I talked about this a while ago. But when I was at the hospital, I had a cyst, and they were giving me morphine, and I had never taken it before. They turned on the drip and my heart kind of just stopped. So I went into cardiac shock. And in that moment, it's like time stretched out. It wasn't even that long that I was like, I was like, something's wrong. And I was out. But in that time where it was like, something is wrong, to falling and then being out, it was like the body was so quiet. It makes so much noise, and it makes more noise than maybe we think it does sometimes. So it's like, it's not about stopping the motion of your body, but it's about getting into your body sufficient that you can hear, and that you're slowing down the, I guess, the accumulation of external stimuli is what is really what I find stillness to be, right? Christina Lopes talked about this in a recent video about meditation. And also, yeah, it's just the different ways you can meditate, right? Like, for me, it's about quieting the inside and quieting the urgency to respond to the outside, because then, you know, as you go through, and I'm not always that great at this, right? Like, we're all learning, right? I'm good at it. I would rather be a learner of it than an expert in so many different ways. But, yeah, I feel like that's it. There's like this need to be still here. But it might also be being awakened to learning something new, either about yourself or something that your intuition or higher self is like communicating to you, right? This Page of Swords energy. But again, the call to stillness, pretty significant. I reference readers all the time because I love watching them, and it's like so much fun. But this, I think Nicholas Ashwell talked about this in a reading recently, where he said that, you know, this person is doing so much, like doing all the things, right? Walking a tightrope, holding the light bulbs, surrounded by birds, trying to balance, caught in the wind, reading. What? Like, right? So it's that, again, it comes back to that stillness and prioritizing, right? Prioritizing what it is that you need to focus on, prioritizing what it is that will help you get through this day and this energy, because there's something that you're kind of holding back. Like, that's where I feel like too, the tower is coming back, not coming through. It's like the fear of the tower as opposed to the actual tower. And it's like a holding back. There's no Eight of Swords, or, you know, Seven of Wands or anything like that that would recommend, that would suggest that, you know, like the manifestation of that in terms of what you're doing in externally. But there's like this internal resistance. Yeah. What's the main lesson here, Spirit? Oh, 2 cards came out. 10 of Wands and the King of Pentacles. Knowing what's good for you and what's not, knowing what you need to invest your energy and time into, and what needs to be just released and let go. And I just heard, and that makes all the difference. Like, I feel like that's what makes all the difference here, for real. Like, that, you know, when you hang on to things because you think that they're good for you or you think that they're important, that's a pentacle. Those are all pentacles. And the wand's energy is how it's almost showing up as like being burned through, like it's burning through your energy. And it's like a need to reprioritize. The King of Pentacles has no problems looking at things, you know, and understanding the energy that goes into a pentacle. All of the suits are connected, right? I'm seeing the Emperor as well. I'm just going to clarify this energy here. Yeah, Judgment. Like I said, that was, you know, the Tower, right? The Tower in terms of its lighter iteration, internal Tower, as opposed to the external systems and environments changing and shifting. It can be different for the way people read it all the time, but this one's coming through as certainly inwardly focused. And I think there's big decisions that you're making about how you're investing your energy and time, what you're investing your energy and time into. Not in a sense of like, not because you're taking things and turning certain things into antagonists and that kind of idea. It's not like that. It's not from a judgmental place. I think it's just looking at your energy as finite and you as precious as part of that, right? Because you can only give so much. Your energy is finite. You are infinite. And sometimes it can feel like we want to give the infinite part of ourselves to others, but all that we can give is the finite part, and to prioritize how much at that. Oh, my cat's freaking out. Eva's got the zoomies. Yeah. Oh my gosh. She's 12, but she acts like she's 2 sometimes. And it warms my heart so very much. Yes, Chicken Little, what is it? Stuff to do for a cat, right? Spirit, what clarifying messages do you have for this daily creative message? I don't know if she sounds like a horse. Like, do I have a cat or a stallion? I'm not really sure. 4 of Swords, more stillness, I think. And this is also, I think, giving your mind a break as an overthinker. I get it, my friends. It's hard. It's really hard. But it's not impossible, right? It's not impossible. And while things can be difficult, they're not impossible at all. So the Knight of Swords, the Ace of Swords and the Knight of Pentacles came out here, clarifying the Sun, the High Priestess, and the Star, and the Knight of Swords. It's almost like the truths that are coming, like, I'm almost seeing like a bubbling up to the surface, which is really cool. But the truths that are coming to the fore here, and they are, that's what often happens. It's not just truth in terms of this is what I want. It's not just truth in terms of this is what's important to me. It's truth in terms of this is who I am. And that's what I feel like your intuition, you know, with the Star and the High Priestess and the Sun here, it's helping you to move towards something because it's who you are. Like there's this calling to you. Something is like calling to you. And I feel like you're kind of slow to approach it, but I feel like again, I'm hearing like method to your madness. We have all the knights here. So this is like emotion, like things are moving and changing. I mean, we have the Knight of Swords, the Knight of Wands, and the Knight of Pentacles. The only one that's missing is the Knight of Cups, which wouldn't shock me if that came out too, but it's almost like there's something about it. It could be, it's like a sensitivity that I'm picking up on in terms of emotions and how you're moving, because I'm getting the Knights in this spread as like, as you move through the energy, the Knights are like this momentum, right? It's this momentum. And I feel like the Knight of Cups in particular is not showing up here necessarily. It's almost as though there's a way that you're connecting to this sensitivity within you because your intuition is allowing you to see something clearly about who you are. And that's allowing you to feel it all. Let me just grab some water here. My embarrassingly large jug. It's okay though. I drink one of these a day. It's actually, it's great. But yeah, I really am getting that there's a part of you that you're able to feel, right? Like it's like you're feeling into yourself, maybe in a way that you hadn't before. Because I feel with the amount of nights here, what that's telling me is that you're well acquainted with movement, with taking in information and then doing something with it, right? You're well acquainted with that process, but the process of integrating something emotionally, it's been a little, but the 9 of Cups is on the bottom. Energy, it's like things you can't see coming. It's like this fulfillment that comes from that. And that's maybe where the Tower is coming in, right? That's on the split. So it's like, it's this aspect of your energy that's responsive on the one hand. And the Tower is telling me here that, the Tower is telling me that you are definitely, it's like, it's almost like, I don't want to say fear of emotional fulfillment, but, you know, Byron Katie talks a lot about this in terms of like, who would you be without your story, right? Who would you be without the story that you've made? And I think that's what the Tower is like. Who would you be and how would you be if your frame was yours alone, right? If you didn't need to be responding to X, Y, and Z thing, to emergencies, to all these other things, right? You know, who would you be? Like, and really understanding that. And that's the emotional fulfillment piece, where it's making that part of you more accessible and knowable to you, so that then your emotions are more recognizable and that you understand better who you are because you know how you are. And they're kind of woven together. Whoa, check this out. That was on the split. Definitely ending a cycle, I would say. I would definitely suggest, yeah, a lot of fixed energy too. Could be something to do with the eclipses coming up with the nodal axes of Taurus and Scorpio. That's a possibility. You know, whenever we see the wheel, my first instinct is something, you know, something destined or fated. But I feel like this, to me, it suggests that this is really, you know that you're on your path because these shifts are happening. You know that you're on your path because they're, you know, the world represents Saturn, right? The world is Saturnian energy, which is characteristically difficult, and, you know, more disciplined, right? It's more disciplined, but it's like this loving discipline. So it's kind of seeing through the lens of that as opposed to the hard times. It's almost like the expansion that comes from really closing something out, patterns, seeing, you know, it could be to do with emotions. It could be to do with the way that you've approached different projects, situations in terms of this night and momentum energy. But I think that there's as much as you might have felt this sort of constriction where there was this tension between where you were and where you wanted to be, I think that the wheel is here to say that there's an expansion, inflected by Jupiter in a lot of ways, because that's Jupiter's card too, right? Jupiter is the planet of expansion. It rules Sagittarius. Historically, it ruled Pisces, but I'm really feeling like there is, it's like this expanse, and possibly it's just an expanse in you, right? You know, when we think about horizons widening, sometimes we think about like a literal expanse in our life, but maybe it's something that makes you feel expansive. Maybe it's something that makes you feel like you can do anything. And that's what's kind of terrifying. That's where the Tower can come in, because if you can do anything, then all of the excuses that you might have used in the past to justify why you weren't doing something no longer really apply the same, right? No, they don't apply quite the same. It's like moody lighting in here now. It's getting to be sunset, and I thought the light would hold for just a little bit longer, but it's all good. Spirit, what additional messages do you have for my daily creatives for September 20th, please? 7 of Pentacles. A little patience. You might have felt like you were waiting, or like you were, I'm getting this like annoyed energy, but I also feel like this is heavily invested. Like this is energy of being heavily invested. But it's almost like when you plant the seeds, you have to give your mind something else to do. Like it can't just sit there like staring at that and being like, where is it? Where is it? When's it coming? Right? So it's like allowing yourself the freedom to roam in and through the details in that way. And I think it's like freeing your mind too. That's part of maybe what this Tower was, where it was like a fear of that, and releasing control and releasing control of the details, because there's this sort of expansion. And when I see the wheel, I think about surrender, right? There's the details that we cannot control. Those are details that we cannot control, no matter how much we want to. And that's almost like pulling yourself out of these details, right? It's like pulling yourself out of the details, because that may be what's frustrating your energy and kind of preventing you from being able to see or hear your higher selves, or, you know, spirit, God, whatever, clearly. Like that might be what's kind of causing this split internally for you. So we have the Knight of Wands. Spirit, what additional messages do we have for the Knight of Wands here? The Moon. Interestingly, I'm almost getting that this is like a way that you've wanted to approach things. Maybe there's like a more passionate way that you've wanted to approach things, but it's been like you haven't, I want to say clarity has been, you're waiting for your passion to meet clarity. But the Moon kind of tells me things that it's like things that we want that we might push away from ourselves. We might push away something from ourselves because it's uncertain how it will go, because it's unfamiliar to us. But it could be amazing for us in the end, but we're just so unsure. I know we're at 30 minutes, but I'm going to turn the light on over here. Hopefully it lights it up so it doesn't look so like it needs subtitles. Give me 1 second. Did that really do anything? A little bit. That's fine. But it's almost like pushing away this way of movement, right? And it's almost like you kind of rejected this passionate part of yourself. It's like showing up in the antagonist position. This is what it's telling me, right? It's like it's pushing away the energy of your passion because there was a sense of fear surrounding it. But again, when you're passionate about something, there's an element of releasing control because you're not bound by it. I'm going to pull from one of these other decks that I have here just to clarify that one a little bit. Spirit, what additional messages do you have for Daily Creatives? Queen of Swords. When cards start coming out twice, thrice, and more, I feel like maybe it was just, I think, and Judgment was on the bottom of that as well. Yeah. I'm getting that this has almost been your approach in the past, this Queen of Swords, like, decisiveness, needing to have all the details or to know the big picture or to be able to see it, bird's eye view kind of idea. But I think Spirit is saying there's a hotter take that you can have. Like there's a hot take here with this Judgment card. And I think the hot take is that it's going to unfold for you as it's going to unfold bit by bit as opposed to all at once. And you might have been used to seeing like all at once. And I don't know that that's what this particular energy that you're working with is about or for in your life, right? And it's frustrating when that happens. I know. I know it's very frustrating at times. But that's where the juice is, right? That's where the good stuff is. Spirit, what additional messages? So I'm going to pull an affirmation for us now. So September 20th, Spirit, what messages do you have for my daily creatives? I can do it and trust, right? All that about surrender. Okay. In times of trouble, remember this. Who you think you are. Oh, I love this so much. It's so good. Okay, I'm going to repeat it twice because it's delightful. In times of trouble, remember this. Who you think you are cannot handle this challenge, but who you really are can and will. Okay, I'm going to read it again. So good. In times of trouble, remember this. Who you think you are cannot handle this challenge, but who you really are can and will. And that's that. Okay, so I'm going to read this to you to close out this reading with love. Okay. Dearest you, selfless giving is an elixir so sweet and life-giving and amazing that it should be customary for everyday living. Right now, generosity is being asked of you. Let go of a debt, release an obligation, or do a solid kindness to someone for no other reason than as an exercise of the heart. You will be surprised how quickly a generous heart is repaid. We know it often doesn't happen in the immediate exchange, so temper your expectations. Know that life has an uncanny way of sending miracles seemingly unrelated to your kindness, yet interconnected in magical ways. The more you act from generosity, the bigger your heart grows, and the more love and abundance you will experience. We also know that someone could be entering your life with a generous offer for you. Take it and trust that you are worthy and deserving of it. You have to receive, not just give. We love you so much over here. Yeah, you have to receive, not just give, right? You can't just be, you're not a gumball machine. I mean, that'd be really cool because who doesn't love gumball machines? But like, that's not what you're here to do. You're not just here to dispense, you know, I mean, gumball machines receive quarters. I don't know. That probably is like, it's probably $1 now for a gumball. I don't even know. But all of this to say that, I think there's like, it's telling me overall, this is like the story of, it's sort of storying. It's not a reawakening of intuition because like that's a misnomer because your intuition's active all the time. I mean, sometimes we can really tune it out and turn it down, but it's like waking up to your purpose and path where it's like your intuition and higher self are communicating with you and you're getting the messages, like you're answering your voicemail again, or you're listening to your voicemail. And then, you know, that means that the inbox is no longer full so that you can then receive, you know, and that might be the reception. That might be the generous offer. You might get this amazing idea that doesn't look like much, because of the page energy here and the Page of Swords and the Seven of Pentacles, because you're kind of like working on other things. You're working on something. But I think the big part of this lesson for you in terms of your purpose path and destiny, is to discern, this discernment, right? To know what is part of cycles, what is part of patterns in your life, what are part of patterns in your life, and how can you then activate the energy within you that moves you forward towards something different? Because that's what the ending of cycles and patterns do, right? It's you choosing something different, right? Those choose your own adventure books. I used to read them a lot when I was a kid. You know, and it's like this lifetime, you get to choose something different. So if there's a response that you've continued to have over and over and over to something, to relationships, to friendships, to jobs, to your own situation, right? And to your own situation, just meaning your environment, the expectations that people have of you, the expectations you have of yourself. If you keep repeating these things and you know that you're called for more or to a higher vision and version of yourself, stepping into that changes the cycle. It doesn't always have to be this like earth-shattering thing, because we think about the Tower in terms of like, oh no, like something horrible is happening or huge, right? And we tend to think in those terms instead of allowing ourselves to think in terms that are much more judgment, right? Judgment card, much more gentle and much more reflective of something happening on the inside that then gets reflected out, right? And that's what I feel like this is. It's kind of an invitation. I mean, I feel like if I'm talking to a cycle breaker, you inspire me. Like seriously, you inspire me so much. And that, I feel like that might be it, right? Like it almost feels like that. Like, oh, that's a different kind of, I'm glowing. Is that this like a different kind of glow up, right? But this energy here is saying, like, if you're a cycle breaker in, you know, changing family patterns, deciding something different for yourself, be easy on yourself, but just remember you can do it. I'm gonna read this to you one more time because it's so good, so good. Okay, so in times of trouble, remember this: who you think you are cannot handle this challenge, but who you really are can and will. So lean into the can and will today, my friends. If this resonated, give it a like and subscribe. I'd love to have you on the channel if you're not here already. If you are joining for my subscriber base, thank you. I so appreciate you, so thank you for that. And also, if this format works for you, I might change it up and have better lighting, of course. But if this works for you, let me know in the comments. I mean, aside from this, like, this super fun, like, what? Anyway, nonetheless, wherever this finds you on the time-space continuum, morning, afternoon, or night, I hope it finds you very, very well, my friends. Take care.